Once upon a time, at the edge of a gentle green forest, stood a tall and curious tower. It shimmered with every color of the rainbow, glowing softly even on cloudy days. Each stone seemed alive, pink like sunrise, blue like calm rivers, and gold like a smile caught in sunlight. Inside the tower lived a cheerful girl named Rapunzel. Her hair was long and golden, soft as silk and warm as honey. But what made it truly special was the way it caught the light, shining brighter when she laughed, as if her happiness itself painted the air around her. Rapunzel wasn't trapped or lonely. She lived there because the tower was a school of color, a place built to protect light and joy until the world remembered how to see them again. Her guardian, Myra, was a kind old painter with silver hair, speckled glasses, and hands that always smelled faintly of paint and peppermint. Myra had built the Rainbow Tower many years ago, believing that color could heal sadness. Color, she told Rapunzel one morning as she mixed paints, is more than what you see. It's what you feel. Blue is calm, green is hope, yellow is laughter, and red is courage. Rapunzel loved that idea. Every morning, she climbed down the spiral staircase to have breakfast with Myra. Warm toast, golden honey, and strawberry jam that sparkled like tiny jewels. Myra said every color had a flavor, and Rapunzel believed her. But after breakfast, they painted not just for beauty, but to keep the tower alive. Its colors faded if no one cared for them. Together, they painted new shades on the walls, soft gold for kindness, green for growth, and orange for bravery. As they worked, Myra told stories about how colors once filled the whole world until people became too busy to notice it. When hearts grow gray, Myra said softly, the world grows gray too. One evening, as the sun began to set, Rapunzel leaned on the window and watched the valley. The light below looked tired. The meadow wasn't as green, and even the sky looked pale. Myra, she asked quietly, why are the colors fading down there? Because people forget to look for them, Myra replied, resting a hand on Rapunzel's shoulder. When kindness and wonder fade, so do the colors. Rapunzel nodded thoughtfully. Then maybe I could help them remember someday. Myra smiled. One day you will. But first, you must learn how strong your own colors are. That night, Rapunzel sat by her window, gazing at the stars. They twinkled like tiny drops of paint across the sky. She didn't know it yet, but far beyond the forest, a boy named Leo, a young artist whose drawings had lost their color, was also looking at the same stars. And so began the story of a girl who wanted to share her light, and a boy who needed to find his not far from the valley of the Rainbow Tower, in a small grey town where clouds liked to linger, lived a boy named Leo. He loved to draw more than anything in the world. From the moment he could hold a pencil, Leo filled every page he found. Trees with dancing branches, birds with musical wings, and skies full of impossible colors. His little attic window was always open, so sunlight could peek in and mix with his drawings. But one stormy day, lightning cracked across the sky, and thunder shook the town. Startled, Leo dropped his pencils, and they rolled into a puddle by the window. When the rain stopped and he tried to draw again, something strange happened. The world on his paper had turned grey. No matter which pencil he used, the colours refused to appear. Red became dull, green turned smoky, and even his favourite blue, the one that used to remind him of morning skies, was gone. Leo stared at the page, his chest tight. "Maybe the storm scared the colours away," he whispered. He tried again the next day and the next, but nothing changed. The colours didn't come back. Days passed, and Leo stopped drawing. His sketchbook stayed closed on the windowsill, gathering dust. The world around him began to look duller to the flowers outside, the rooftops, even his own reflection in the mirror. "Maybe the world is losing its color," he told his mother quietly. His mother smiled sadly and brushed his hair back. "Or maybe, my love, the color is waiting for you to find it again." That night, Leo couldn't sleep. The wind rattled the window, whispering as if trying to speak. He opened it, and a faint shimmer touched his cheek. A flicker of pink light far away in the distance. It pulsed once, twice, then faded. "What was that?" he murmured. The next morning, he packed a small satchel, a sandwich, his sketchbook, and a broken blue pencil. On the first page, he drew the faintest rainbow, though no color appeared. Still, he smiled. "Maybe I'll find it out there." He set off down the road, waving goodbye to his mother. The air grew clearer as he left the grey town behind. Birds began to chirp again, and flowers nodded along the path. He helped a shepherd gather wool blown by the wind, shared his sandwich with a hungry squirrel, and once stopped to lift a snail off the path before it was crushed. Each time he did something kind, he didn't notice, but a faint shimmer of color appeared somewhere nearby. A petal brightened. The sky turned a little bluer. By sunset, Leo reached the edge of the forest and saw something glowing on the horizon, soft and golden, with ribbons of color swirling around it. His eyes widened. "The Rainbow Tower," he breathed. He walked toward it, his heart beating fast. Not knowing that inside that tower, a girl named Rapunzel was leaning out her window at that very moment, watching a small figure in the distance, glowing softly against the grey. Leo walked closer and closer to the glowing tower, the air around him changing with every step. The grass looked greener, the sky brighter, and tiny lights danced above the flowers like friendly fireflies. By the time he reached the clearing, the sun had dipped behind the trees. The Rainbow Tower shimmered with its own light, soft waves of pink, gold, and turquoise. It looked alive, like it was breathing color. Leo stood in awe. "It's real," he whispered. "The tower is real." He circled it slowly, tracing his fingers along the colorful stones. "Hello," he called. "Is anyone here?" Inside, Rapunzel heard his voice and froze. No one had ever called from below before. She peeked out of her round window, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "Hello down there," she answered, cheerful and curious. Leo jumped back. eyes wide. You can talk, Rapunzel giggled. Of course I can talk. What did you expect? A quiet rainbow. Leo laughed, the first real laugh he'd had in a long time. I think I got lost, he said, but maybe I found what I was looking for. What were you looking for? Asked Rapunzel. He held up his sketchbook. My colors. They disappeared. Rapunzel tilted her head. Maybe they're just shy. Come up, let's see them together. Leo looked up at the tall tower. I don't see any stairs. Rapunzel grinned. That's because there aren't any. But there's another way. She took a deep breath, closed her eyes, and whispered something to the tower. The walls began to glow brighter, and her long golden hair shimmered like sunlight. One strand floated gently from the window, curling downward until it touched the grass. Leo stared. Is that your hair? It's the safest ladder you'll ever climb, Rapunzel said proudly. Hold on, it's softer than rope. Leo hesitated. Are you sure? Completely? She said, smiling. It's stronger than it looks. So Leo grabbed the braid carefully. It felt warm, almost alive, like sunlight woven into silk. As he climbed, tiny flecks of color surrounded him, blues, greens, and oranges flickering like sparks. The tower hummed softly beneath his hands, as if it was happy to meet him. When he reached the window, Rapunzel was waiting with a wide grin. You made it. Leo caught his breath. I can't believe this place exists. Rapunzel stepped aside and gestured for him to come in. Welcome to the Rainbow Tower, she said, spreading her arms. Inside, the walls glowed with gentle light. Paintings of stars, trees, and smiling faces covered every inch. It felt warm, safe, like stepping inside a dream. Leo looked around, amazed. It's beautiful, he whispered. Rapunzel smiled. Everything looks brighter when you share it. He opened his sketchbook again, still full of grey drawings. Do you think I can ever bring the color back? Rapunzel reached out and touched the page softly. For a moment, the drawing shimmered. The faintest hint of blue appeared. There, she said, see, it was never gone. It was just waiting for you to believe in it again. Leo looked up at her, eyes wide. You really think so? I know so, Rapunzel replied, her golden hair glowing faintly around her shoulders. That's what color does. It always comes back when kindness finds it, outside. The first stars began to appear, tiny dots of light above the Rainbow Tower, where two new friends had just begun to bring the world's color back. That evening, the Rainbow Tower glowed brighter than ever. Warm colors shimmered across the walls as if celebrating Leo's arrival. The golden light flickered through the window and danced on the wooden floor like tiny living stars. Myra, Rapunzel's guardian, came up the stairs slowly, carrying a tray with 3 mugs of cocoa and a smile that reached her kind eyes. She stopped when she saw Leo, her silver hair catching the tower's glow. So, she said softly, the tower found you. Leo blinked. I think I found it. Myra chuckled. It's always both. She handed him a mug. Welcome, traveler. The Rainbow Tower doesn't open its doors for just anyone. Leo held the warm cup carefully. I didn't mean to disturb you, he said shyly. I was just looking for color. Then you've come to the right place, Mira said, sitting down by the window. But tell me, what happened to your drawings? Leo sighed. They lost their color after a storm. I tried everything, but nothing worked. Myra nodded slowly. Sometimes storms take away more than they should, but sometimes they wash the world clean so that new colors can appear. Rapunzel sat cross-legged on the floor beside Leo. Show her your sketchbook, she said eagerly. He opened it, revealing pages filled with gray outlines of trees, skies, and people. Myra looked through them silently, her eyes thoughtful. These are beautiful, she said. The color will return when your heart is ready to see it again. Tell me, Leo, what made you draw in the first place? Leo hesitated, because it made me happy. Drawing felt like magic, like I could make the world brighter just by holding a pencil. Then that magic is still in you, Mira said, her voice soft and certain. You just forgot where to look. She set her cocoa aside and stood. Would you like to know the secret of the Rainbow Tower? Leo's eyes widened. There's a secret. Mira smiled. Of course. Every color has one. She walked to the center of the room and lifted a small jar of shimmering powder. This tower was built to protect the last light of the world, the one that lives inside people who still believe in kindness. When they stop believing, the colors fade. But when they care, when they share, the colors return. Rapunzel nodded. That's what she taught me. The colors don't come from paint. They come from hearts. Leo looked down at his gray drawings again, thinking, so, if I draw with kindness, maybe the colors will come back. Exactly, Mira said, but only if you promise to share them. Leo smiled for the first time in a long while. I promise. That night, the three of them stayed awake late, sitting by the glowing window, watching the forest lights below. It felt peaceful, like the beginning of something big, something bright, and somewhere deep in the valley, tiny wildflowers began to bloom again, touched by the faint return of forgotten color. The next morning, Rapunzel woke early to find the air strangely still. Usually, sunlight spilled into her room in ribbons of gold, but today it looked pale and quiet. The birds that sang every dawn were nowhere to be heard. She climbed to the top window and frowned. A heavy mist was rolling through the forest below. It wasn't white like morning fog. It was grey, thick and slow, covering everything in its path. Myra Rapunzel called, "Something's happening outside." Mira appeared a moment later, holding her paintbrush. Her face was serious. "I was afraid of this," she murmured. "The storm of grey has returned." Leo looked up from his sketchbook. The what? It's not a real storm, Myra explained. Not wind or rain. It's what comes when too many hearts forget to care. It spreads quietly, and it steals the color from everything it touches. Rapunzel's eyes widened. "We have to stop it." Mira nodded. "Yes, but we must use the right kind of strength, not anger or fear. Only joy can chase the grey away. Leo stood quickly. Then let's paint the sky. Myra smiled softly. Exactly. She handed him a set of clean brushes and opened a small chest filled with jars of glowing paint, red like courage, green like hope, blue like trust. You'll need these, she said. Rapunzel rushed to the window, untying her long braid so it shone bright again. She reached for her biggest brush and dipped it into golden paint. If Grey wants to cover the forest, she said, we'll give it something better to look at. Together, they climbed to the highest balcony. The mist had already reached the trees, dimming their leaves to silver. The tower walls flickered nervously, as if the colors themselves were afraid. Don't let fear win, Mira said firmly. Begin. Leo dipped his brush into red and threw bold strokes into the air. The color leaped like sparks and hovered above them. Rapunzel painted arcs of gold that spread like sunlight. Mira added blue, weaving it through the others until the sky looked alive again. But the storm grew stronger. The grey swelled and hissed, swallowing the edges of their light. Leo's colours dimmed. His hands began to shake. It's too strong, he shouted. No, said Rapunzel, her eyes glowing with determination. It just needs more heart. She closed her eyes, took a deep breath, and let her hair shine brighter than ever before. The golden light poured from her braid, mixing with Leo's red and Myra's blue. It spread outward in waves, orange, violet, emerald, until the whole sky burst into color. The grey hissed once, then vanished in a shimmer of dust. Leo lowered his brush, amazed. We did it. Myra smiled, tears glinting in her eyes. You did it together. That's how color wins, through courage and kindness side by side. Below them, the forest glowed brighter than ever, and even the distant hills shimmered with new life. When the last trace of grey disappeared, silence filled the forest. A peaceful golden silence that felt almost like a sigh of relief. Then came the rain. Not a cold or heavy rain, but soft, sparkling drops that glowed in every color as they fell. Rapunzel leaned out from the balcony, laughing as the gentle rain touched her hair, making it shimmer like liquid light. It's raining colors, she said, spinning in delight. Leo stepped beside her, holding his hand out to catch a few drops. Each one that landed on his skin turned into a tiny swirl of paint before fading away. It feels warm, he said, smiling for the first time in forever. Like the sky is painting us back. Myra joined them, her silver hair glinting under the rainbow rain. This is the world healing, she said softly. Every storm that takes color leaves behind a chance to grow new ones. The three of them watched as the forest below came alive again. Flowers bloomed in waves of pink and orange. The river sparkled turquoise as it twisted through the valley. Even the stones looked fresh, as if someone had polished them with joy. Leo turned to Myra. You said the world loses color when people forget to care. Maybe. This is what happens when they remember. Myra nodded. Exactly. And now, Rapunzel, it may be time for you to share your colors beyond these walls. Rapunzel froze. You mean ... leave the tower? Myra smiled. The world outside needs color. You've learned to protect it here. Now it's time to spread it. Rapunzel glanced out over the glowing valley. She had always wondered what lay beyond the forest, what songs the rivers sang, what stories the stars told. The thought of leaving the tower filled her with both excitement and a little fear. Leo noticed her hesitation. "You won't be alone," he said quickly. "I'll come with you. I've been searching for color all my life, and I think it wants to travel." Myra chuckled, her eyes warm. Then it settled. "But take this." She reached into her apron and pulled out a tiny golden compass, no bigger than a walnut. Its needle shimmered with rainbow hues. "This will guide you," she said. "Not to places, but to people who have forgotten how to see color." Rapunzel held the compass carefully. "Thank you, Myra." The old painter touched her cheek. "Wherever you go, remember, color begins in the heart. Keep it kind, and it will never fade." As evening fell, the rainbow tower glowed softly behind them, its colors calm and full, as if it too was smiling. Inside, Myra watched from the window, her heart proud and peaceful. The world outside shone again, and two new artists were about to carry its colors to places where light had long been missing. The next morning, the rainbow tower shimmered in soft sunlight, as if it already knew that something special was about to happen. Birds circled gently above, singing bright, happy notes that seemed to say goodbye. Rapunzel tied her golden hair into a long, thick braid. It glowed faintly, like a golden ribbon ready to guide her through the world. She looked at her reflection in a small mirror. Her heart fluttered between excitement and a tiny bit of fear. "I've never been outside the forest," she said quietly. Myra smiled, wrapping a colorful scarf around her shoulders. "Then today you will see that the world is much bigger and even more beautiful than any painting we've made." Leo packed his sketchbook, a few pencils, and the tiny compass that shimmered with rainbow light. "I've got everything," he said. Then he paused and added with a grin, "Well, except courage. But maybe we'll find that along the way." Myra chuckled and handed him a small pouch of paints. "You already have it," she said. "You just don't see it yet." They hugged her tightly, promising to come back when the world was brighter again. As they stepped outside, the door of the tower glowed softly behind them, as if it, too, was watching them go with love. The forest greeted them with colors more vivid than ever before. Leaves sparkled in shades of jade and emerald. Tiny flowers swayed as if waving them onward. The path ahead wound gently between trees that whispered in warm tones. Leo looked around in wonder. "It feels alive." "It is alive," said Rapunzel, smiling. "Everything sings when it's seen." They followed the path down to a bubbling stream where the water danced over pebbles like liquid glass. A frog sat on a rock nearby, croaking cheerfully. "Hello, travelers," the frog said, startling Leo. Rapunzel laughed. Not all frogs talk, she explained, but some have a lot to say. The frog puffed up proudly. The forest is happy again. You brought the colors back. Rapunzel knelt beside him. Not just us. Everyone who believes in kindness helps a little. The frog nodded wisely. Then kindness is the new paintbrush. Leo smiled. That's a good title for a story. As they continued their journey, they crossed bright meadows and little bridges made of vines. They stopped to help a hedgehog untangle itself from a patch of roots, shared berries with a family of birds, and watched a deer drink from a sparkling pond. With each kind act, the air around them shimmered a little more. The world seemed to follow their laughter, blooming wherever they walked. By evening, they reached the top of a hill. From there, they could see the valley stretching endlessly, rivers like ribbons, villages like tiny dots of color. Rapunzel held the compass in her hand. Its needle pointed toward the horizon, glowing softly. That way, she said. Leo nodded. Then that's where we'll bring the color next. But behind them, the rainbow tower glowed one last time before night fell. Its light a promise that kindness, once shared, would never fade. After many days of walking through bright forests and cheerful meadows, Rapunzel and Leo finally reached a wide valley where the path turned into stone. Ahead of them rose the grand towers of a city, but something felt strange the moment they stepped closer. The streets were silent. The walls were grey, the fountains were dry, even the flowers in the windows looked asleep. Leo frowned. It's like someone erased all the colour. Rapunzel touched one of the buildings gently. The stone was cold beneath her fingers. The city has forgotten how to feel, she whispered. They walked deeper inside. People moved quietly along the streets, eyes down, voices soft and tired. Shops were open, but no one smiled. Even the children played without laughter. Leo leaned close. It's like they're afraid of happiness. Rapunzel nodded. Then we'll remind them what joy looks like. At the center of the city stood a large palace with tall silver gates. A guard stopped them politely. Visitors are rare here, he said. What brings you to our grey kingdom? We bring color, Rapunzel answered simply. The guard blinked in confusion, but something in her gentle voice made him step aside. The Queen will want to hear this. Inside, the palace was grand but lifeless. The ceilings were high, the curtains heavy, and even the chandeliers had lost their shine. On the throne sat a woman dressed in pale silk, her crown dull and her eyes full of quiet sadness. Rapunzel bowed. Your Majesty, I'm Rapunzel, and this is my friend Leo. We've come from the Rainbow Tower to share light and color with those who have lost them. The Queen studied them, her face soft but weary. I once knew the colors you speak of, she said, but the day my daughter was lost in a storm, they faded from my heart, and from the city too. Leo's eyes widened. Your daughter was lost in a storm. The Queen nodded. The grey storm took her when she was just a child. Since then, I've lived in shadows. Rapunzel felt her heart tighten. Maybe the storm didn't take her away, she said gently. Maybe it only hid her light until the world was ready to see it again. The queen gave a sad smile. You speak kindly, child, but such hope is for stories. Rapunzel stepped closer. Then let's make this city a story worth remembering. She raised her hand, and her golden braid shimmered softly. Light spilled into the room, touching the floor, the walls, the curtains turning dull grey into soft gold. Gasps filled the palace. The guards stared, the servants stopped, and the queen slowly rose from her throne, her eyes wide as the colour returned to her cheeks. She reached out, trembling. Rapunzel, she whispered. The room fell silent. Leo looked at Rapunzel in astonishment, and then, at the same time, they both understood. The queen's voice trembled in the golden light. Rapunzel, she whispered again, as if afraid the word might vanish if she said it too loudly. Rapunzel stood perfectly still. The room glowed around her, soft yellows, pinks and blues weaving together like sunlight through water. "How do you know my name?" she asked quietly. The queen stepped down from her throne, her eyes full of wonder and tears. "Because I gave it to you," she said. "Before the storm carried you away." Leo's heart raced. He looked from one to the other. "You mean yes," said the queen, her voice breaking. "You are my daughter." For a long moment the world felt silent. Then Rapunzel's eyes filled with tears that sparkled like stars. "Mother," she whispered, taking a trembling step forward. The queen opened her arms, and Rapunzel ran into them. The two held each other tightly, their tears glimmering as they fell, drops of colour returning to a world that had forgotten warmth. "I looked for you in every corner of the kingdom," the queen said, holding her close, but the storm left only emptiness. "I thought I would never see your light again." Rapunzel smiled through her tears. "But I was safe. Myra took care of me in the Rainbow Tower. She taught me how to keep the colors alive." The queen nodded, her voice soft. Then the painter truly was wise. "I remember her kindness." Leo wiped his eyes discreetly and smiled. The light in the room grew brighter, running along the walls and windows, spilling into the streets outside. "Look," cried one of the servants. "The color is spreading outside." People gathered as the palace glowed like dawn. Grey faded from their clothes and from the stones beneath their feet. Flowers opened in the gardens. The fountains began to sing again. Children laughed, the kind of laughter that makes everything around it sparkle. Rapunzel turned to Leo, her smile glowing like sunlight. "The storm didn't win after all." Leo grinned. "No storm ever can, not when color has friends." The queen gently lifted Rapunzel's braid, the golden strands catching every hue in the air. "Your hair. It carries the light of the world," she said softly. "And your heart carries its hope." Rapunzel hugged her once more. "I'm home," she whispered. "But I think I'm not meant to stay." The queen blinked in surprise. "You're leaving again?" Rapunzel nodded, smiling gently. "The world still needs its colors. There are places waiting to glow again." The queen's eyes shone, not with sadness this time, but with pride. Then take this, she said, reaching for a small box beside her throne. Inside lay a golden paintbrush, its handle carved with stars. This belonged to Mira, said the Queen. She gave it to me long ago, saying it would find its way back to you when the time was right. Rapunzel took the brush with trembling hands. It glowed softly, matching the golden light in her braid. "It's perfect," she whispered. "I'll use it to paint the world bright again." The Queen kissed her forehead. "Then the world will never lose its color, not while you walk beneath its sky." Outside, rainbows arched above the city, brighter than ever before, as if celebrating the reunion of light and love. The next morning, the city woke to the softest sunrise it had seen in years. Gold touched every rooftop, and the air shimmered as if filled with tiny invisible wings. The fountains sang again, and people smiled at one another as if they were seeing the world for the first time. Rapunzel and Leo stood at the edge of the palace gardens. The Queen stood beside them, her hand resting gently on Rapunzel's shoulder. "You brought the light back," she said. "The city will remember this day." Rapunzel smiled, but her gaze was already turned toward the horizon. "There are more places waiting," she said softly. "Places still gray, where laughter is quiet and hearts forget to hope." Leo nodded. "And we have paint left to share." He lifted Myra's pouch, now shimmering faintly in the morning sun. The Queen took Rapunzel's hands in hers. "You have my heart wherever you go," she said, "and the palace gates will always be open to you." "I know," Rapunzel whispered, her voice full of warmth. "But love travels better when it moves." They said their goodbyes beneath the glowing archway. The Queen watched as her daughter and Leo began their walk down the long golden road, sunlight weaving through Rapunzel's braid like threads of pure light. The city behind them remained bright and full of laughter. Children drew with chalk in every color, painting rainbows on the cobblestones. For the first time in years, music drifted from open windows. As they journeyed on, Rapunzel and Leo passed through villages, meadows, and towns. Everywhere they went, they left trails of color behind a blue door here, a red flower blooming in an empty yard, a smile that grew brighter after every thank you. In one village, they painted the grey bell of a church until it gleamed like sunrise. In another, Leo taught children to draw their dreams, and Rapunzel helped an old man remember that kindness can be golden too. Each night, they camped beneath the stars. The golden compass glowed softly in Rapunzel's hand, always pointing toward the next heart that needed color. Sometimes she thought she heard Myra's voice in the wind, whispering, "The world is your canvas now." One evening, as they reached the top of a hill, Rapunzel turned back. Far in the distance, the rainbow tower glowed faintly, a tiny, colorful spark in the horizon, steady and kind. She smiled. "Home isn't one place anymore," she said. "It's everywhere we leave a little light." Leo grinned. "Then let's keep painting." Together they walked toward the sunset. The sky above them began to change, gold deepening into pink, pink fading into violet. And as night fell, a band of color stretched across the sky, brighter and softer than any rainbow before. People who saw it that night whispered to each other, "Look, the rainbow is traveling again." And high above the world, the colors shimmered gently, carrying kindness, courage, and joy to anyone who needed them. Because sometimes, when hearts forget how to see color, a girl named Rapunzel and her friend Leo pass by and remind them that light always finds a way back.
Curious Bee, learning is fun.